Actually, I started a new job. It was in South Jersey, and I also had a new car. I was driving home around exit 8 because I wanted to get home before it got dark to take care of Boomer. And I started to get a little tired, so I pulled to the side of the road to just close my eyes, actually, and give a rest. Never expected to doze off. And apparently somebody came, and I heard the knocking on the window, and I just sort of ignored it. But then the fellow opened the door and started pulling me out. I wasn't sure whether he was looking to rob me or help me or what. And I resisted, and we started to wrestle behind the wheel. Somehow, I don't remember what part of me hit the shift, put it down into drive. The car lunged forward for a second, knocked the fellow over to the ground. And the next thing I knew, the car was going to the middle of the turnpike by itself. Next thing I remember was the whole front of the car was crashing down on my chest, and then I just blacked out.
He had a cardiac arrest in the field, so he required CPR there, and EMS had gotten his heart beating again, brought him into us. He had a lot of rib fractures. If I remember correctly, he had at least 10 rib fractures on each side, which is the vast majority of his ribs, in multiple places. He had a blunt cardiac injury, which is why he had an unstable heart rhythm initially during his stay. And unfortunately actually had 2 more cardiac arrests while he was in the hospital. The cardiology team put a pacemaker in him, which stabilized his rhythm, but he had collapsed lungs on both sides, so required chest tubes, which is common with CPR as well. So he had some pretty bad injuries. The people that he was staying with eventually realized that he had not come home, and they tried to find out where he was, and eventually, I think through the New Jersey State Police, found out that he was with us. And they called in asking about him, so we were able to get information from them about him, and they also told us about Boomer, you know, this gigantic dog that they were doing their best to take care of. But they had a lot of other pets, and those pets didn't really get along with Boomer, so they were looking to find a place for him to, you know, be long-term, because he just couldn't be there with them. I'm a single guy who has a dog, and if something were to happen to me, you know, my family would eventually be able to come to me, but they live far away. So I would be just as worried about someone taking care of my dog in the immediate aftermath of an accident. And unfortunately, he didn't have someone to take care of Boomer in the immediate aftermath of his trauma. So that struck a chord with me.
It was comforting because I was, you know, raised a dog's been my whole life, and it was good to see him and to know he was being taken care of.
We talk about family visiting patients all the time and how important that is to patients and helping them recover. And bringing Boomer in, that was bringing his family in for Mr. Weiser. In the moment, I could see him become more awake, more alert, and react to the fact that Boomer was there. Boomer is, I think, one of the sweetest dogs I've ever known. He is a gentle giant. He's gentle with every person I've ever seen him with. Little kids, he's just very curious. He's like a big kid, frankly.
But I'm trying to figure out, it's such a happy time, such a good time with so many good things happening. I'm trying to figure out, why is my eyes getting watery? I'm trying to figure out, why do I get choked up?
Come on.
I don't get them too often.
I've renamed all of you, plus a whole bunch inside. And the new name is not nurses and doctors and administrators, it's Heaven's Angels. Because that's what I really feel towards all of you.
I don't know, how do you measure what's inside of a person? You know, we know by their history, their success rates, we know what great surgeons they are or how they handle their business, and we have proof of all that. But when you look at a person, there's no way to tell, there's no measuring tool to tell you what's inside of a person and what makes him tick. And I have to tell you, first time ever been in a hospital in my life. That's a long time to be out of one. And you've got a great crew here.
It's sweet to see Mr. Weiser doing so well, you know, especially an older patient who's had such a severe trauma. To see him come back here, and he has a walker with him, but he carried his walker all the way to the car. And to see him doing so well is so wonderful. And it really empowers us, I think, as a care team, as physicians, nurses, respiratory therapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, everyone who has a chance to work with trauma patients. He's why we do what we do.
The people of New Brunswick can sleep well tonight because you've got one hell of a crew here, and I really mean that.